Hey guys, Alex the Real Mr. Robinson here. So this is my review for Ralph Breaks the Internet, aka Wreck-It Ralph 2. The movie brings back John C. Reilly, who voices Wreck-It Ralph, and Sarah Silverman, who voices Vanellope von Schweetz, as they travel to the vast world of the internet in order to try to find a new part to fix the Sugar Rush game because it accidentally got damaged, and there's the possibility of it being unplugged and thrown out, meaning Vanellope has no home. So yeah, it's a huge race against time. It's one of those kinds of movies. So this is weird because there was a time back in Disney's career, when I was growing up, where they just made direct-to-video sequels non-stop. And most of the movies that come from their official Disney Studios lineup have all been original ideas. And this is the first time Walt Disney Animation has made a sequel and released it theatrically since The Rescuers Down Under, which was made in between The Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast. And no, I'm not counting movies like The Jungle Book 2 or Return to Neverland, because those are technically Disney Toon movies, not Walt Disney Animation. They're not considered part of the official lineup. And when I heard that they were going to be making a sequel to Wreck-It Ralph, I actually was on board with that. In normal situations, I would have been like, oh no, why? Like, that's how I feel about Frozen 2. But with the first Wreck-It Ralph that came out in 2012, it created such a massive world with all these video game characters that it only makes sense to expand on it a little bit. That movie was pretty much the Who Framed Roger Rabbit of video games, very briefly, and then it deviates into its own thing, but still is a really good movie. It was the first year Disney had made a Pixar movie and Pixar made a Disney movie, and this was my favorite animated movie of 2012. So as much as I was interested in seeing a sequel, when I first heard that they were going to the internet, I was just kind of like, oh, really? We're doing this? I mean, the Emoji Movie just came out last year. It was horrible, and some of the trailers really aren't selling me, and when Vanellope goes to Oh My Disney, it just seems like a big product placement for Disney, so I'm skeptical. And not only is this movie nothing like the Emoji Movie in terms of a lack of quality, but I actually like this better than the first one. I like this better than the first one because it just feels very imaginative, and it feels like it's doing more of what the first Wreck-It Ralph was doing at first, where it poked fun but was also a loving tribute to all these old video games. And this movie does more of that, but with the internet. It pokes fun at online bidding with eBay, and how some stuff is ridiculously more valuable than others. It pokes fun of the trend of viral videos, and how something usually becomes a trend for a very short period of time. It also pokes fun at online gaming because they go into this section called Slaughter Race, which is pretty much Grand Theft Auto Online. And in terms of the representation of online gamers, there's only so much that Disney can do without it feeling inappropriate for families, but with what they do, they actually get it down pretty well. In fact, there are a lot of points in this movie where it's almost a roast in terms of how they portray people using the internet, because it's almost like Disney is going, yeah, we know some of you do these really creepy things, we're gonna call you out on it. And it's in all those aspects where I think it's more clever than the first Wreck-It Ralph, and it's also a visually stunning movie. The way they depict the internet is pretty accurate and also imaginative, to the point where now I'm going to be thinking about all this stuff when I edit this review and have to pull pictures online for the review. And also, unlike the Emoji Movie, it actually knows how the internet functions, where the Emoji Movie doesn't know how phones work at all. And there's so many visual gags throughout this movie that I couldn't catch them all. There's some stuff that's happening in the background or even in the foreground for just a split second that caught me off guard in terms of how funny it was, to the point where you really have to see this movie more than once in order to catch everything, because it's just that imaginative, and they really went the extra mile to make this as clever as it is. Which also, if you see this movie, please stay through the credits because it'll be worth it, and they give you a lot more visual gags. Now, what about the characters? Well, as I mentioned before, John C. Reilly and Sarah Silverman are back as Ralph and Vanellope, and they've become best friends. And like the first Wreck-It Ralph, it becomes the Pixar formula again, where these two buddies go off on an adventure, something happens to where their friendship is tested. I don't want to give too much away because it's just better you see the movie, but it still very much works. The voice work is great, the friendship between Ralph and Vanellope is just so believable and so charming. And the new characters are also fun as well. You have fun and memorable characters voiced by Gadot and Taraji P. Henson, then you have have Alan Tudyk playing a character who, at this point, he's just become to Disney what John Ratzenberger is to Pixar. He's just in all of their movies doing a fun voice and sometimes playing a big role. I did have some issues with the movie though, and believe it or not, one of those issues is not the scene with the Disney princesses. Because when I saw all the Disney stuff in the trailer, I was just worried it was going to be a big commercial for Disney. And in a way it is, but there's still some imagination put into it. There's some clever sight gags, and the scene with the Disney princesses is probably the biggest highlight of the film. And the fact that they got the original voice actors from The Little Mermaid to Moana definitely helps with the authenticity. So if you're ever worried about all the Disney stuff, it's actually pretty good. What my biggest problem is that when we get into the third act, it feels like things are going to wrap up, and then it just kind of hits a lull and feels like they have to force in a conflict for the third act. But thinking about all the stuff that this movie establishes, it doesn't feel forced at all, but the sluggish pace definitely makes it feel like that. Almost like they didn't know how to end the movie. But what they do with the ending is pretty good. It's a weird criticism, but basically what I'm trying to say is that the pace near the end is a little slow, and the way they implement this third act doesn't feel like they really thought it through all the way. But still, despite all that, I think this is a sequel that's better than the first one. It's more imaginative, it's more clever, the characters are still as good as they were back then, all the new characters are great. It's just a very, very clever movie all around. So it's definitely worth seeing in your lifetime. I actually don't know if I like this more than The Incredibles 2, because The Incredibles 2 was fantastic as well, but this one, I feel like more imagination was put into this one, because both of them are really good, but I just need time to figure out which one's the better one. But until that time, Ralph Breaks the Internet is definitely a big contender for Best Animated Movie of the Year. But anyway, that's my review for Ralph Breaks the Internet. Now I want to hear what you guys have to say about the movie. If you've seen it, or when you see it, what did you think? Do you like this better than the first one, or is the first one still superior to you? Let me know in the comments down below, and until next time, I hope you enjoyed this review. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, give this video a like, and of course leave a comment. Don't forget to support my Patreon page, follow me on social media, and until next time, this is the real Mr. Robinson telling you, there's only one.